The library smelled of old paper and secrets. Cordelia Ashmore turned another page, her fingers trembling, not from fear but from the electric thrill of discovery. The candle beside her had burned low wax, pooling like tears on the mahogany desk. Outside, London slept. Inside, she read about monsters, not the kind in children's tales, real ones. The kind that walked among men beautiful and terrible, cursed to live forever, while everything they touched turned to ash and memory. The book before her was bound in leather so dark it seemed to swallow light. Her father's private collection. 20 years of research into things the church called damnation and scholars called myth. Augustine Ashmore had dedicated half his life to understanding what others feared. And now, at 24, his daughter had found what he had been searching for all along, a way to break a vampire's curse. Cordelia pressed her palm against the page, feeling the raised ink beneath her skin. The text was written in Latin, then translated in her father's careful script. 3 trials, 3 acts of sacrifice, 3 chances to reclaim a stolen soul. Her heart beat faster, not because she believed in fairy tales, but because she believed in survival, and right now she needed a miracle that looked like a monster. The door creaked. Cordelia didn't turn. She knew that footstep, heavy, deliberate, the walk of a man who had never been told no. "You're awake late, my darling." Cassian Whitmore stepped into the candlelight, his smile sharp as a knife, handsome in the way dangerous things often are. Tall, broad-shouldered, with eyes the color of winter ice. 2 years ago, she had thought those eyes romantic. Now she knew better. Now she saw what lived behind them. Hunger, control, the kind of love that felt like drowning. "I couldn't sleep," Cordelia said. She closed the book slowly, keeping her voice steady. Fear was a scent men like Cassian could smell. "The wedding plans, you understand." His smile widened. He moved closer, circling her chair like a wolf studying prey. "Our wedding plans," he corrected. His hand fell on her shoulder, heavy and possessive. 6 weeks, Cordelia. Then you'll be mine, properly, finally." She felt his fingers tighten through the fabric of her dressing gown. Her throat closed. 6 weeks. 6 weeks until she became proper. Until this man owned not just her name, but her body, her choices, her future. Until the law made her helpless. Unless... "Cassian," she said carefully, "my father hasn't given his final blessing." The hand on her shoulder became painful. She didn't flinch. Flinching only made him worse. "Your father," Cassian said, his voice dropping to something cold and smooth, "will give his blessing. Or he'll regret what happens to his precious occult research. Those books he loves so much. Would be a shame if they burned. If the church heard about his unholy interest." There it was. The threat beneath the charm, the iron fist inside the velvet glove. Cordelia's mind raced. She had known Cassian was dangerous. She had broken their first engagement because of it, had spent 2 years trying to escape his orbit. But he was patient, persistent, a hunter who never stopped once he'd chosen his prey. And he had chosen her. "I understand," she whispered. "Good girl." He kissed the top of her head like she was a pet. Then he was gone, his footsteps fading down the hallway. The door clicked shut. Cordelia sat frozen for 3 heartbeats. Then she opened the book again, her hands shaking now with rage instead of excitement. A vampire's curse could be broken. She had found the answer. And if a monster could be saved, perhaps she could save herself. Perhaps she could become unsavable. The next morning, Cordelia found her father in his study. Augustine Ashmore looked up from his papers, his reading glasses sliding down his nose. He was 50, but looked older, worn thin by years of questions the world refused to answer. His hair had gone silver early. His hand shook slightly when he lifted his teacup, but his mind was sharp as ever. "You read the Blackwell manuscript," he said. Not a question. He always knew when someone touched his books. Cordelia closed the door behind her. "I did." And she moved to the window. Morning light made the London streets look almost clean, almost hopeful. She could see the baker across the way opening his shop, the flower seller arranging her cart. Normal people living normal lives. She wanted that, desperately. But normal was a luxury women like her couldn't afford. "Tell me about Lysander Nightshade," she said. Her father went very still. Then he set down his teacup with a soft clink. "That's a dangerous name to speak aloud. Is he real?" A long pause, then yes. Cordelia turned to face him. "You've researched him." "For 15 years. Augustine removed his glasses, rubbing the bridge of his nose. "The Duke of Nightshade, cursed in 1714, 312 years old though he appears 28. They say he was the most arrogant nobleman in England, When plague came to his lands, he refused to help the dying, said it was beneath him. A witch cursed him for his pride, condemned him to walk the earth forever, watching everyone he might love turn to dust. His estate? Crumbling. The church confiscated most of his wealth a century ago when rumors spread about what he was. He's lived in isolation ever since. Thornfield Hall, 50 miles north. They say the locals won't go near it after dark. Cordelia's pulse quickened. Is he dangerous? Augustine studied his daughter, really looked at her, and she saw the moment he understood. His face went pale. No, he said firmly, absolutely not. Whatever you're thinking. Cassian threatened you last night, Cordelia said. Her voice stayed calm, clinical. He said he'd burn your library, report you to the church, unless I marry him in 6 weeks. Her father stood, hands shaking harder now. We'll run, leave London. I have colleagues in Edinburgh. He'll follow. Cordelia moved to the desk, placing her hands on its surface. You know he will. He's been hunting me for 2 years, father. He won't stop. Men like that never stop. So you'd rather marry a vampire? Augustine's voice cracked. Cordelia, he's cursed. Damned. Even if the stories are true, even if there's a way to break it. There is. She met her father's eyes. I read the manuscript. 3 trials of sacrifice. It's possible. And if I'm going to marry a monster, I'd prefer one who's honest about what he is. The words hung in the air like smoke. Augustine sank back into his chair. He looked old suddenly, defeated. You don't know what you're asking. I know exactly what I'm asking. Cordelia's voice gentled. She moved around the desk, kneeling beside her father's chair. I'm asking you to trust me. I'm asking you to help me choose my own fate instead of letting Cassian choose it for me. And if the Duke refuses, Cordelia smiled. It was not a kind smile. It was the smile of a woman who had spent 2 years learning how to survive. Then we'll make him an offer he can't refuse. It took 3 days to arrange. 3 days of careful planning, coded letters, and one very large bribe to a solicitor with questionable ethics. Augustine used his connections in the occult community. Word spread through whispered channels. An offer for the Duke of Nightshade, a business proposition, a bride in exchange for salvation. On the 3rd evening, a response arrived. Black wax seal, no signature. Just an address and a time. Thornfield Hall, midnight. Cordelia dressed carefully. Black traveling cloak, simple gray dress, hair pinned tight. She looked in the mirror and saw a woman ready for war. Around her neck, she fastened a black velvet choker. It hid the scar, the thin white line that curved from beneath her right ear down toward her collarbone. A childhood accident, a fall from a horse. Nothing dramatic, nothing that made her ugly, but it gave her an idea. Before leaving her room, Cordelia sat at her writing desk. She pulled out fresh paper and began to write, letter after letter, to old schoolmates, to society ladies, to gossips and rumor mongers. Each one carefully worded, each one suggesting, hinting, implying without quite stating. Poor Cordelia Ashmore. Such a shame about her face. The accident left her terribly scarred. Her father keeps her hidden. No man would want to look at her across a breakfast table. She sealed each letter. Tomorrow her maid would deliver them. By week's end, then all of London would whisper the same lie. The ugly Ashmore girl. It was perfect. Because if everyone believed she was hideous, then marrying her wouldn't look like a prize. It would look like charity, like sacrifice. And Lysander Nightshade would think he was getting exactly what a cursed man deserved. A bride he would never be tempted to love. Cordelia smiled at her reflection. Then she blew out the candle and went downstairs to meet her father. The carriage ride north was long and cold. Rain began to fall an hour outside London, turning the roads to mud. Augustine sat across from her, worry etched into every line of his face. It's not too late to turn back, he said. Cordelia looked out the window at the darkness rushing past. Yes, it is. He might kill you. Cassian will definitely destroy me. She met her father's eyes. At least with a vampire, I have a chance. That's not funny. It wasn't meant to be. The countryside grew wilder. Trees pressed close to the road like skeletal fingers. The villages they passed were dark shuttered tight. No one traveled these roads after sunset. Not anymore. When Thornfield Hall finally appeared, it rose from the mist like something from a nightmare. Stone towers reaching toward a moonless sky. Windows dark as dead eyes. Walls covered in ivy that looked black in the rain. The carriage stopped. The driver wouldn't go further. He was local. He knew the stories. Augustine helped Cordelia down. They stood in the rain looking up at the iron gates. Beyond them, a long drive wound toward the house. Gravel and weeds. No lights, no movement. Last chance, her father whispered. Cordelia pushed the gates open. They shrieked like something dying. She walked forward. Augustine followed, one hand on the small pistol in his coat. Not that bullets would help, not against what lived here. The front door was enormous. Old oak iron banded carved with symbols Cordelia recognized from her father's books. Wards, protection, warnings. She lifted the knocker. It was shaped like a wolf's head. The sound echoed like a gunshot. Silence. Then footsteps. Slow, deliberate, coming closer. The door opened, and Cordelia Ashmore looked into the eyes of the monster she had come to marry. He was beautiful. That was the first shock. The stories always made monsters ugly, twisted, easy to recognize. But Lysander Nightshade stood in the doorway like something carved from marble and moonlight, tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair that fell across his forehead in waves. His face was all sharp angles, high cheekbones, strong jaw, mouth that looked cruel and kind at once. But his eyes, silver, not gray, true silver, like mirrors that reflected everything and revealed nothing. Eyes that had seen 3 centuries pass, eyes that belonged to something not quite human anymore. He looked at Cordelia, then at Augustine, then back to Cordelia. "You're late," he said. His voice was deep accented with something old. "Midnight was 10 minutes ago." "The roads were poor," Augustine said. Lysander's gaze didn't move from Cordelia. "Is this her? This is my daughter, Cordelia Ashmore." "Show me her face." Cordelia's hand went to her hood. She pushed it back slowly. Let him see. Let him look at her in the rain and the darkness. Let him make his assumptions. The choker hid her scar, but the shadows helped her. The rain helped her. She kept her chin down, her eyes lowered. Played the part of a girl ashamed, a girl with something to hide. Lysander studied her for a long moment. Then he stepped back. "Come inside. We have business to discuss." The interior of Thornfield Hall was like walking into the past. Everything was old. The furniture, the paintings, the very air tasted of dust and memory. Candles lit themselves as they passed, flames springing to life without match or tinder. Vampire magic. Small, controlled, but magic nonetheless. Lysander led them to a study. Massive fireplace, walls of books, a desk that looked like it had witnessed the signing of treaties and death warrants. He sat behind it like a judge preparing to deliver verdict. Augustine cleared his throat. "Your Grace, we come with a proposition." "I know what you're offering." Lysander's fingers drummed on the desk. "Marriage offer to her, in exchange for money." "In exchange for partnership," Augustine corrected carefully. "My daughter brings a substantial dowry, enough to restore Thornfield, to reclaim what was taken from you." "And what does she get, besides the privilege of living with a monster?" "Protection," Cordelia said. Both men looked at her. She raised her eyes, meeting Lysander's silver gaze directly for the first time. "I'm being hunted," she continued, her voice steady, strong, "by a man who won't take no for an answer. A man who will own me unless I find shelter somewhere he can't reach." Lysander leaned back in his chair. "And you think marriage to a vampire is shelter?" "I think marriage to a duke is shelter. The vampire part is convenient. No man would fight you for me. No one would dare." Something flickered in those silver eyes, amusement perhaps, or respect. "You're not afraid of me," he said. "I'm terrified of you." Cordelia kept her voice level. "But I'm more terrified of him. This man, he's truly that dangerous. He killed my mother." The words fell into the room like stones into still water. Augustine's head snapped toward her. She hadn't told him, hadn't been able to until now. 2 years ago, Cordelia continued, her voice harder now, he thought she paused, careful. He thought she was something she wasn't. He hunted her, killed her, made it look like an accident. I couldn't prove it, but I know. Lysander's expression didn't change, but his fingers stopped drumming. "What's his name? Does it matter? If we're to be married, I should know who I'm protecting you from." Cordelia took a breath. "Cassian Whitmore." Lysander went very still. "The vampire hunter." So he knew. Of course he knew. "Yes," Cordelia said simply. The silence stretched. Augustine looked between them, understanding dawning on his face, the danger, the impossible position, the fact that his daughter was about to marry one monster to escape another. Lysander stood. He moved to the window, looking out at the rain-soaked grounds. When he spoke, his voice was distant. tired. I haven't had a wife in 300 years, he said. The last one aged while I stayed frozen. I watched her wither, held her hand while she died, buried her next to our children. All 7 of them. I buried them all. Cordelia's throat tightened. She hadn't expected this. This raw, terrible honesty. I promised myself never again, Lysander continued. Never to love, never to care, never to watch another person. He stopped. But I need the money. The estate is collapsing. The villagers depend on Thornfield for work, for protection. Without wealth, I can't maintain it. Can't help them. He turned back to face them. So yes, I'll marry her. I'll protect her from Whitmore. I'll give her my name and my house and whatever safety I can offer. But that's all. There will be no affection, no intimacy beyond what's necessary for appearances. She'll have her own chambers, her own life. I won't bother her, and she won't expect anything from me but cold civility. Augustine started to speak, but Cordelia cut him off. I have conditions. Lysander raised an eyebrow. You're in no position to make demands. Neither are you. Cordelia stood, moving closer. Brave now, committed. I'll marry you. I'll bring my dowry. I'll play the dutiful wife for society. But in exchange, you'll grant me access to your library. All of it, including the restricted sections, the books on curses and breaking them. Something dangerous flashed in Lysander's eyes. Why? Because I'm a scholar's daughter. Because I want to understand what I'm binding myself to. Because knowledge is the only real power I'll have in this arrangement. A lie, but a believable one. Lysander studied her, really looked at her, and Cordelia wondered if he could see through her, if 300 years had taught him to recognize deception. Fine, he said at last. The library is yours. Anything else? When the time comes, if there's a way to break your curse, you'll let me help you try. Now Augustine made a sound of protest, but Lysander held up one hand, silencing him. There is no way to break it, Lysander said flatly. Humor me. Why would you want to? If I become human, I become weak, mortal, old. I couldn't protect you from Whitmore anymore. Maybe I don't want to be protected by a monster forever. Cordelia held his gaze. Maybe I'd prefer to be married to a man. The words hung between them, truth and dare and challenge all at once. Lysander's mouth curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. You're either very brave or very foolish, Miss Ashmore. Perhaps both. Very well. If such a thing exists and if you wish to attempt it, I'll allow it. Though you'll be disappointed. I've spent 3 centuries looking for a way out. There isn't one. Then you have nothing to lose by agreeing. Except my dignity when you fail. I've read that vampires don't have much of that left anyway. Augustine made a choking sound, but Lysander laughed. Actually laughed. The sound was rusty, like something long unused. I think I might like you, Miss Ashmore, he said, despite my better judgment. Don't. Cordelia's voice turned cold. You said no affection. I'm holding you to that. This is business. Keep it business. The laughter died. Lysander's expression shuddered. Agreed, he said. When shall we marry? As soon as possible. Cassian expects me to marry him in 5 weeks. I need to be legally bound to you before then. 3 weeks, Lysander said. I'll arrange the license. The ceremony will be at the village church. Small, quiet, only necessary witnesses. Perfect. They shook hands. His skin was cold. Not deathly cold, just absent of warmth, like touching marble that had never seen sun. When Cordelia and her father left Thornfield Hall that night, rain still falling, Augustine finally spoke. You are playing a dangerous game, daughter. I know. He's not human. Whatever you're planning will work. Cordelia looked back at the dark shape of the house disappearing into the mist. It has to. Because she hadn't told her father the whole truth, hadn't told him what she'd really found in those ancient texts. The curse could be broken. 3 trials of sacrifice. 3 chances to reclaim a soul. But the trials had to be initiated by someone who knew what they were doing. Someone who understood the magic. Someone willing to risk everything. And Cordelia Ashmore had spent 2 years learning how to risk everything. She would marry the vampire. She would spread her ugly rumors. She would make London believe she was too hideous to inspire love. And then when everyone thought this was just a transaction between broken things, she would do the impossible. She would save him. Not because he deserved it, not because she loved him, but because saving a cursed vampire meant proving that curses could be broken, that prisons could be opened, that women like her could escape the monsters hunting them. And if that meant becoming the one thing Cassian Whitmore feared most, the wife of something more dangerous than himself, then so be it. Cordelia smiled in the darkness of the carriage. Let the games begin. The next 3 weeks passed in a blur of careful deception. Cordelia's letters worked better than she'd hoped. Within days, all of London whispered about the Ashmore girl. Poor tragic ruined, too scarred to show her face in society. Her father keeping her hidden out of shame. Cassian heard the rumors. He came to their townhouse 3 times demanding to see her. Each time Augustine turned him away with excuses. She was ill. She was indisposed. She was too distraught to receive visitors. On his 4th visit, Cordelia arranged to be seen from a distance. She wore heavy veils, walked with her head down, made sure he glimpsed her only in shadow. She watched from behind her curtains as he left, saw the disgust on his face. Good. Let him think she was damaged goods. Let him believe he'd won when she disappeared to marry some desperate duke in the north. Meanwhile, preparations continued. A trousseau purchased, papers signed, announcements carefully worded. The Duke of Nightshade, reclusive nobleman, to wed Miss Cordelia Ashmore in private ceremony. Bride's health prevents large gathering. Society would gossip, but society always gossiped. 2 days before the wedding, a package arrived at the townhouse. Black box, no card, inside a necklace. Diamonds and sapphires arranged in a pattern that looked like stars. Nightshade stars, the note said in elegant script. They've been in my family for 400 years. My first wife wore them. Wear them if you wish, or don't. Either way, they're yours now. Cordelia held them up to the light. They were beautiful, cold, perfect, like the man who sent them. She put them on. The weight around her neck felt like a collar and a crown at once. The night before the wedding, Augustine came to her room. He looked older than ever, tired. It's not too late, he said. We can still run. We'd never stop running. Cordelia fastened her jewelry box closed. This way I'm protected. You're protected. And maybe if I'm very lucky and very clever, I'll actually manage to break his curse. And if you can't, then I'll be the Duchess of Nightshade, living in a castle with a monster who's sworn to keep me safe. That's still better than being Cassian Whitmore's wife, living in fear, waiting for the day he decides I know too much about what he really is. Augustine sat heavily on her bed. I should never have let you read those books. You couldn't have stopped me. Cordelia crossed to him, taking his hands. Father, you taught me that knowledge is power, that understanding darkness doesn't mean surrendering to it. This is me using everything you gave me. Trust that. I do trust you. I just don't trust him. You don't have to. I do. And strangely, she did. Not because Lysander Nightshade was good, but because he was honest. He'd told her exactly what he was, what he could and couldn't offer. No pretty lies, no false promises, just truth cold and clear as the stones around her neck. The wedding morning dawned gray and still. Cordelia dressed alone, white silk dress, simple, elegant, no veil yet. That would come later. She looked at herself in the mirror, studied the face London thought was ruined, the face that was in truth entirely ordinary. Pretty enough, nothing special, just a woman with brown hair and blue eyes and a thin scar she'd learned to hide with jewelry and lies. A knock at the door, her father dressed for traveling. Behind him the carriage waited. Ready? He asked. Cordelia picked up her veil, heavy white lace, thick enough to hide everything. Ready, she said. The village church was small. Stone walls, stained glass windows depicting saints and martyrs. It smelled of old incense and older prayers. Lysander was already there, standing at the altar in black. He looked like a shadow-given form. When he turned to watch her enter, his silver eyes reflected the candlelight like mirrors. No guests, only the vicar. One witness from the village. Augustine beside her. Cordelia walked down the aisle slowly. Each step measured, each breath controlled. This was it, the point of no return. The vicar began, words about duty and honor and commitment until death. Words people had spoken in this place for centuries. Words that sounded different when death wasn't an ending, but a distant theoretical thing. Lysander's responses were clear, firm. A man making a bargain, not a vow. Then it was Cordelia's turn. Do you, Cordelia Ashmore, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better or worse, for richer or poorer, in sickness and in health, until death do you part? She looked at Lysander, really looked at him, saw the weariness in those immortal eyes. The resignation. The man who expected nothing and wanted nothing and feared hoping for anything at all. I do, she said. The vicar smiled. You may lift the veil. This was the moment, the reveal, the shock. Cordelia held her breath. Lysander reached for her veil. His hands were steady. No hesitation, no drama, just the simple motion of lifting lace. The veil rose. Light fell across her face. And Lysander Nightshade's expression didn't change. For 3 heartbeats, he just looked at her. Really looked. Then his eyes widened. Just slightly. Just enough. Because she wasn't ugly. She wasn't scarred. She wasn't what he'd been promised. She was a liar, a trap, a woman who had played him as surely as he'd thought he was playing her. You, he said softly, dangerously. What? Cordelia leaned closer, close enough that only he could hear, close enough that her lips nearly brushed his ear. I know what you are, she whispered. I know you're cursed, and I know how to break it, but you have to trust me. She pulled back, looked into his eyes, saw shock, fury, confusion, and beneath it all the faintest, most dangerous thing. Hope. The vicar coughed. Your grace, you may kiss the bride. Lysander's jaw tightened, his hands closed on her shoulders. For a moment, Cordelia thought he might refuse, might call this off, expose her deception in front of God and witness. But he didn't. Instead, he pulled her close. His mouth found hers. The kiss was meant to be brief, performative, just for show. But something happened. Some spark, some recognition. His lips were cool, gentle, and entirely unexpected. When they broke apart, his eyes were still on hers, questions burning behind silver. The vicar pronounced them husband and wife. Cordelia smiled. Lysander did not. They signed the register, accepted Augustine's stiff congratulations, walked out into the gray morning as Duke and Duchess. The carriage that waited was Lysander's, black and ancient. When the door closed and they were alone, he turned to her. Explain, he said, one word, a command. Cordelia removed her gloves slowly, deliberately, making him wait. There's a book in your library, she began, the Blackwell manuscript, written in 1623 by a witch who specialized in breaking curses. My father has a copy. I've spent 2 years studying it. And I know what you are. What you've been searching for. The 3 trials. Lysander went absolutely still. You're lying. There are no trials. I've looked. You've looked in the wrong places. You've searched for magic, for spells, for some external force to save you. Cordelia met his eyes. But the curse isn't external. It's woven into your soul, and the only way to break it is through sacrifice. 3 specific sacrifices made willingly by 3 different people. That's impossible. Has anyone ever tried silence? I spread those rumors, Cordelia continued. I made London believe I was ugly. I made sure you'd agree to marry me thinking I was no threat to your precious isolation, because I needed to get close to you, to convince you to let me try. Why? His voice was razor sharp. Why would you care about saving me? I don't. The truth. Cold and honest. But I care about saving myself. And breaking your curse means proving that impossible things can be broken. That women can shatter prisons. That I can escape the man hunting me by becoming something he can't touch. She leaned forward. You're 312 years old, Lysander. You've lived through plague and war and revolution. You've watched everyone you love die. You're so tired you can barely remember why you keep going. And I'm offering you a chance. One real genuine chance to become human again. At what cost? Your trust, your cooperation, and eventually your courage. Cordelia's voice softened. The trials are not easy. They require sacrifice from you and from others. The first trial requires humility. You have to give up your pride, the thing that cursed you in the first place. And the second trial requires me to almost die for you. Lysander recoiled. Absolutely not. It's the only way. Then there is no way. I won't let you. You don't get to let me do anything. Cordelia's voice turned sharp. I'm not asking your permission. I'm telling you what will happen. You made a bargain. Honor it. They stared at each other, 2 stubborn wills, 2 desperate people. Finally, Lysander looked away. You're insane, he said. Probably. This will fail. Maybe. And if it does, if you die trying, Cordelia smiled. It was not a gentle smile. Then at least I'll die trying something, instead of dying slowly married to a monster who doesn't even pretend to love me. The words hit him, She saw it in the way his shoulders tensed, the way his hands clenched. "I told you not to expect affection," he said quietly. "And I told you I don't want it. This is business. Keep it business." She adjusted her gloves. "Take me to Thornfield. Show me the library. Give me time to prepare. Then we'll begin." "Begin what?" "Saving you." Cordelia looked out the window at the countryside passing by. "Whether you want to be saved or not." The carriage rolled on through the gray morning. Behind them, the church bells rang. Ahead, Thornfield Hall waited like a promise or a tomb, and between them sat two strangers bound by law and lies and the most dangerous thing of all, a plan that just might work. Thornfield Hall swallowed sound. That was the first thing Cordelia noticed when she woke in her new chambers the morning after the wedding. No bird song, no servants bustling, no sound of horses or carriages or normal life. Just silence thick and heavy as velvet draped over everything. Her room was beautiful in a haunted way. Four-poster bed with curtains the color of midnight, walls papered in deep green damask, a fireplace large enough to stand in, windows that looked out over gardens gone wild, rose bushes tangled into thorns and ivy claiming stone walls like possessive fingers. She rose and dressed herself. No lady's maid had been offered. Perhaps none would serve a vampire's wife. Or perhaps Lysander simply had no staff left. The house felt empty, abandoned by everyone but ghosts and the man who couldn't die. Cordelia found him in the library. It was a cathedral to knowledge. 3 stories of books spiraling upward, connected by iron staircases that curved like spiderwebs. The ceiling was painted with constellations, though whether they were accurate or artistic she couldn't tell. Light filtered through high windows, turning dust motes into floating galaxies. Lysander sat at a massive oak table reading. He looked up when she entered. No greeting, just that silver gaze, cool and assessing. "The restricted section is through the far door," he said. "Combination is your birthday backwards. I assume you know it. You're giving me access already. We made a bargain. I keep my bargains." He returned to his book. "Unlike some people who keep their faces." Cordelia moved closer. "Still angry about that?" "I don't get angry. I've lived too long for anger." But his jaw was tight, his knuckles white against the book's spine. She sat across from him, bold, uninvited. "I never lied," she said. "I simply allowed people to believe what they wanted to believe. That's different." "Semantics." "Truth." Cordelia folded her hands on the table. "You assumed I was ugly because it made this easier for you. You wanted a wife you wouldn't be tempted to care about. Well, you got one. I don't want your affection any more than you want to give it. What I want is your cooperation." Lysander closed his book slowly. "To break my curse." "Yes." "Why should I believe you even can?" "Because I've done my research. Because I know things you don't. And because," she paused, choosing words carefully, "because you're desperate enough to hope I'm right, even though hope terrifies you more than anything else in this world." The silence stretched. She'd struck something true. She could see it in the way he wouldn't quite meet her eyes. "What do you need from me?" he asked finally. "Time to prepare. Access to your archives. And when the moment comes, your willingness to do exactly what I tell you, no matter how much you hate it. That's asking a lot. I'm offering a lot. Your humanity, your soul, the chance to be more than this." She gestured at the library, the house, the endless, empty years. "Don't you want that?" Lysander stood abruptly, moved to the window, his back to her, shoulders rigid. "I wanted it for the first century," he said quietly. "Wanted it so badly I tried everything. Magic, prayer, bargains with things darker than myself. Nothing worked. After a while you stop wanting. Wanting hurts too much." Cordelia's chest tightened. She hadn't expected this vulnerability, this raw, terrible honesty. "Then let me want it for you," she said, "until you remember how." He turned, looked at her, really looked. "You're extraordinary," he said, "and completely mad. I've been called worse." "By who?" "By the man who wants me dead." The words hung between them. Reminder of why she was here, why this mattered. Lysander nodded once. "Then do what you must. I'll cooperate." "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. If this fails, if you die, I'll have to live with that. Forever. That's not a kindness you're doing me." "Then we won't fail." She said it with such certainty, such fierce conviction, as if will alone could reshape reality. Lysander almost smiled, almost. "Get to work, wife," he said. "Time's wasting." 10 days passed. Cordelia spent them moving between the restricted archives and her chambers, piecing together the puzzle. The Blackwell manuscript was there as promised, but there were others too. Grimoires written in dead languages, journals from curse breakers long turned to dust. She learned the mechanics, how curses latched onto souls like parasites, how they fed on the original sin, how breaking them required undoing what created them. For Lysander, that sin was pride, arrogance so profound he'd let people die rather than lower himself to help them. The first trial then required humility, true humility, not performance, not charity done for show, but genuine submission of ego. On the 11th morning, Cordelia found Lysander in the study. He was reviewing estate ledgers, frowning at numbers that told stories of decay. "I need you to do something today," she said without preamble. He looked up. "What?" "Go to the village, speak to the farmers, ask them what they need, then help provide it." Lysander's expression darkened. "I'm not a servant." "No, you're a duke, and dukes have responsibilities. You've been hiding here for decades, letting the estate rot. That stops now. The villagers fear me. They won't want my help." "Then convince them. Show them you've changed." "I haven't changed. I'm still—" He stopped, reconsidered. "What does this have to do with breaking the curse?" "Everything." Cordelia moved to his desk, placed her hands on it, leaned close. "Pride cursed you. Humility will save you. You have to prove you're no longer the man who let people die. You have to earn your redemption." "I'm a vampire. I don't get redemption." "Not with that attitude." Despite himself, Lysander's lips twitched. "You're relentless." "I'm motivated. There's a difference." She straightened. "This morning, the village. You're going. And if I refuse, then I'll go alone and tell them all that their duke is a coward hiding in his castle. See how well that works for your reputation." Lysander stood, moved close to her, close enough that she could feel the unnatural stillness of him, the way he didn't breathe, didn't blink as often as humans did. "You blackmail your own husband. You said keep it business. This is business." They stared at each other, wills locked, neither giving ground. Then Lysander laughed, actually laughed. The sound warmed something in the cold library air. "Fine, this morning. But if they tried to stake me, you're explaining to your father why his clever daughter got herself widowed in a fortnight." "Deal." The morning was cold and bright. Frost painted the windows silver. Cordelia dressed in simple wool, warm and practical. When she came downstairs, Lysander was waiting. He wore black as always, but he'd made an effort. Hair combed, face shaved, looking less like a monster and more like a lord. Together they walked to the village. It was perhaps a mile through woods that had once been groomed and now grew wild. Lysander moved silently beside her, his boots making no sound on the frozen ground. "You don't have to do this," he said at one point. "Come with you. Risk yourself for me. You could stay safe at Thornfield. Let me handle Cassian when he comes. And if you fail, if he kills you, I'm already dead. I have been for 300 years. Cordelia stopped walking, looked at him. "That's not true. Dead things don't feel. They don't fear. They don't hope against hope that maybe, just maybe, there's a way out of the dark. You barely know me. I know enough. You know facts, history, what I am. You don't know who I am. Then show me." She started walking again. Starting today. The village was smaller than Cordelia expected. Maybe 30 cottages clustered around a green, a church at one end, an inn at the other. Smoke rose from chimneys, chickens scratched in yards. Normal, peaceful, until they saw Lysander. The first woman to spot them grabbed her child and ran inside. A man mending a fence dropped his hammer and made a sign against evil. Within minutes, the street cleared. Doors slammed, windows shuttered. Lysander's expression didn't change, but Cordelia saw his hands clench. "See," he said quietly, "they hate me. They fear you. That's different." She raised her voice. "Please, we've come to help. Whatever you need, repairs, supplies, anything." Silence. Then a door opened. An old woman stepped out. She was bent with age, her face a map of wrinkles, but her eyes were sharp, shrewd. "You're the new Duchess," she said. "I am. Cordelia Nightshade. And you came here willingly, married him knowing what he is." "I did." The old woman studied her, then looked at Lysander. "Your Grace, been 30 years since you set foot in this village." "I know, Mrs. Pembroke. Folks thought you'd forgotten us, or stopped caring." Lysander's voice was stiff, formal. "I thought my presence would only frighten people." "Well, you thought right about that," Mrs. Pembroke cackled. but there was something not unkind in it. But fear don't fix roofs. Don't feed children when winter comes hard. What do you need? Cordelia asked. The old woman considered. Miller's wheel broke. Been 3 weeks. Can't grind grain without it. And the church roof's got holes. Rain's getting in, ruining the altar cloth. Lysander spoke before Cordelia could. I'll send men to fix both. And grain. I have stores at Thornfield. You're welcome to it. Just like that. Just like that. Mrs. Pembroke's eyes narrowed. What's the catch? No catch. Lysander stopped, struggled with words that clearly didn't come easy. I've neglected my duties. That changes now. Slowly, other doors opened. Other faces appeared. Wary, cautious, but listening. A young man stepped forward. Begging your pardon, your grace, but why now? Why after all this time? Lysander looked at Cordelia. Something passed between them. Understanding. Permission. Because my wife reminded me what being a duke means, he said, and I'm tired of forgetting. The words were simple, honest, and somehow they landed. Mrs. Pembroke nodded slowly. Well then, suppose we could use the help. It wasn't acceptance, not yet, but it was a start. For the next 3 hours, Lysander listened. He took notes. He promised repairs and resources. He spoke to people he'd avoided for decades. And slowly, carefully, like frost melting under unexpected sun, the fear began to ease. Cordelia watched him, saw the effort it cost, the way he had to fight his own nature. 300 years of isolation didn't vanish in a morning, but he tried, and that she thought might be enough. They were walking back through the woods when Cordelia felt it, the prickle at the back of her neck, the sense of being watched. She stopped. Lysander. He'd already sensed it. His body went perfectly still, predator alert. A man stepped onto the path ahead of them, Cassian Whitmore. Cordelia's blood turned to ice. He looked the same, tall, handsome, smiling that smile that had once charmed her and now made her skin crawl. He wore traveling clothes, dust on his boots. He'd ridden hard to get here. Cordelia, he said warmly, as if they were old friends, as if he hadn't threatened her, hadn't hunted her. What a lovely surprise. Lysander moved between them instantly. His voice dropped to something cold and dangerous. Leave. Now. Cassian's smile widened. Is that any way to greet a guest? I've come to congratulate the happy couple. We don't want your congratulations, Cordelia said. She kept her voice steady, showed no fear. Go back to London. Can't do that, I'm afraid. You see, I have some questions. About your hasty marriage, about your new husband. His eyes flicked to Lysander. About what exactly you married. Lysander's hands flexed. Cordelia saw his fingers sharpen slightly, claws beginning to emerge. She touched his arm. A warning, not yet. I married a duke, she said to Cassian. That's all you need to know. Is it? Cassian moved closer. Lysander tensed but didn't attack. Because I've been doing research. Interesting things about Thornfield Hall, about the Duke of Nightshade, about how he never ages, never dies, never shows his face in daylight if he can help it. Folklore, Cordelia said. Stories, nothing more. Are they? Cassian's voice dropped. Because 2 years ago I hunted something I thought was a vampire. It had your mother's face. The world stopped. Cordelia couldn't breathe, couldn't move. What? She whispered. Oh, you didn't know. Cassian's expression was pure cruelty. Your dear mother, I received information that she'd been turned, that she was hunting in London, feeding on innocence. So I did my duty. I tracked her, cornered her, killed her. You're lying. But Cordelia's voice shook, because suddenly pieces were falling into place. The way her mother died, the strange circumstances, the speed of it all. I'm not. Cassian pulled something from his coat, a locket, gold, with a small portrait inside, Cordelia's mother's face. She begged, Cassian continued, said she wasn't a monster, that she was human. But they all say that. So I staked her, watched her die. And do you know what she bled red? Human red. Because she wasn't a vampire at all. Cordelia's knees went weak. Lysander caught her, held her up. You killed an innocent woman, Lysander said. His voice was death itself. I killed what I thought was a threat. Cassian shrugged. Mistakes happen, but I learned from it. Got better at recognizing the real monsters. His eyes fixed on Lysander. Like you. Run, Lysander said softly. Run now or I'll kill you. Will you hear in front of her? Let her see what you really are. Cassian spread his arms. Go ahead. Show her the monster. Prove me right. Lysander's body trembled with restraint. every muscle screaming to attack, to rip, to kill. But he didn't, because Cordelia's hand was on his arm, because she was crying, because he felt her pain like a knife in his own chest. "Don't," she whispered. "Please, not like this." Lysander looked down at her, saw the tears, the grief, the way she held on to him like he was the only solid thing in a collapsing world. And something in him shifted, something he'd thought long dead. He cared. God help him, he actually cared. He stepped back, drew Cordelia close, protective. "Leave," he said to Cassian. "I won't warn you again." Cassian's smile faded. "She's mine. You stole her. She was never yours. She chose. She chose a corpse. A damn thing. When I expose what you are, when I bring proof to London, they'll annul this marriage. And she'll come back to me, where she belongs. Over my dead body." That, Cassian said, can be arranged. He turned and walked away, disappeared into the trees like smoke. Cordelia collapsed. Lysander caught her, held her while she sobbed, while 300 years of practiced detachment crumbled in the face of one simple truth. He couldn't watch her suffer. He'd broken his own rule. He'd started to care. That night, Cordelia locked herself in her chambers. Lysander paced the hallway outside, listening to her cry, wanting to comfort her, not knowing how. Around midnight, her door opened. She looked terrible, eyes red, face blotchy, hair loose. "I need to do the second trial," she said. "Now." "You're in no state." "I'm in exactly the right state. I'm angry, I'm grieving. I'm ready to risk everything." She grabbed his arm. "The ritual requires genuine sacrifice, real willingness to die. I have that now. Let's use it." "Cordelia, my mother is dead because of him, because he hunts what he doesn't understand, because he kills first and asks questions never." Her voice broke. "If I don't do this now, if I don't try to break your curse, then I'm admitting he wins, that monsters are better than humans. I won't do that." Lysander stared at her, this fierce, broken, extraordinary woman. "Tell me what you need," he said. She led him to the library, to the restricted section, to books so old the pages crumbled at the edges. "The second trial requires blood sacrifice," she said. "The vampire must give up what he values most. I thought at first it meant your immortality, but it doesn't." "Then what us?" She looked up at him. "It means whoever you care about most has to nearly die. Their blood freely given weakens the curse, but they have to choose it, knowing the risk." Lysander felt something cold slide down his spine. "No. Yes. I won't let you. You don't get to let me. I'm choosing this." "Then unchoose it. Find another way." "There is no other way," her voice echoed off stone walls. "Don't you see? The curse was born from you refusing to sacrifice anything for others. It can only break if someone sacrifices for you, if someone proves that you're worth dying for." "I'm not worth dying for. Let me decide that." They stood facing each other, the space between them crackling with unspoken things. "I barely know you," Lysander said desperately. "We've been married less than 2 weeks. You can't possibly care about you." "No, I don't. This isn't about affection. It's about principle, about proving that curses can break, that prisons can open, that I'm stronger than Cassian Whitmore will ever be." It should have hurt, should have stung, but somehow her honesty made it easier. "What do I have to do?" he asked. She showed him. The ritual was complex, circles drawn in salt, candles placed at cardinal points, words in a language older than English, older than Latin, and at the center a silver bowl. "I'll cut my palm," Cordelia said. "Let blood fall until I'm unconscious. You have to catch me before I die. The curse will fight you, try to make you drink, try to make you kill me. You have to resist. And if I can't, then you'll be right. You'll be the monster everyone thinks you are, but I don't believe that." She touched his face, the first time she'd touched him tenderly. "I've seen who you are, what you're becoming. You can do this." Lysander closed his eyes. "I hate you a little, for making me hope." "I know." They began at midnight. The library windows showed a full moon, cold and bright. Cordelia stood in the circle. She'd changed into white, simple dress, hair down. She looked like a sacrifice from ancient times. Lysander watched from the edge of the circle. Every instinct screamed at him to stop this, to grab her and run, to refuse, but he'd made a promise. Keep it business. Honor the bargain, even if it killed him. Cordelia took the knife, silver blade. She looked at him one last time. "If this works," she said, "the curse will weaken, not break." That comes later. But you'll feel different, more human. It will hurt. Everything hurts. Then hurt. But don't let me die. She cut her palm. Deep. Blood welled up shockingly red. She held her hand over the bowl. Drip, drip, drip. Lysander smelled it immediately. His fangs descended. His body went rigid with hunger. 300 years of careful control began to fracture. More blood. Cordelia swayed. Her face went pale. Keep going, she whispered. Has to be enough. The bowl was filling, quarter full, half. Her knees buckled. Lysander moved without thinking, crossed the circle, caught her as she fell. The curse exploded, pain like lightning through every nerve. His body convulsed. The hunger roared louder. Her blood was so close, her throat right there. So easy. Do it, something whispered. Drink, feed, become what you are. No, he held her, felt her heartbeat weakening, felt her blood soaking his shirt. Drink her, save yourself. No. He pressed his hand over her wounded palm, applied pressure, stopped the bleeding. Her eyes fluttered open, unfocused. Lysander, she murmured. I'm here. Stay with me. Did it work? He felt it then, the curse cracking. Not breaking, but fracturing, light bleeding through, and with it pain. His chest felt like something was being torn out. His heart, unused for centuries, began to beat. Slow, irregular, but beating. He gasped. The sensation was agony, was beautiful, was terrifying. It's working, he choked out. God, it hurts. Cordelia smiled, then her eyes closed. Panic, pure panic. Lysander lifted her, ran through hallways, upstairs, to her chambers. He laid her on the bed, wrapped her hand, checked her pulse, weak. But there he sat beside her, held her skin, felt his own heart beating against his ribs like a trapped bird. This was what it felt like to be human, to care, to fear loss. He'd forgotten. He'd spent 3 centuries forgetting. And now, because of this impossible woman, he remembered. Hours passed. Dawn came. Lysander stayed, watching her breathe, feeling his own chest rise and fall in rhythm with hers. When she finally woke, afternoon light was painting the room gold. You didn't drink, she said. Her voice was rough. No. The curse, he held out his hand. In daylight it looked different. Less pale, more alive. He could see veins under the skin, see color returning. Weaker, he said, much weaker. Cordelia struggled to sit up. He helped her. Their faces were very close. One more trial, she whispered. Then you're free. What is it? Her expression changed, became sanois. Frightened. A choice, she said, the hardest one. Tell me. She looked away. Not yet. I need to be sure. Need to prepare. When she looked back, her eyes were bright with unshed tears. Lysander, the third trial, it might cost everything. Cost what? Your protection, your strength, everything you've used to keep me safe from Cassian. Understanding dawned, cold and terrible. The final trial makes you human, he said slowly. Completely human. Yes, but I found something in the texts, something I didn't see before. She took his hand. Her fingers were cold. If you become human while Cassian knows what you are, he'll kill you. He's gathering other hunters. 8 days from now, they'll come here to destroy you. Then we have 8 days to break the curse. If we break it, you'll be vulnerable, mortal. He'll win. And if we don't, you stay vampire, stay cursed. But you can fight them. Protect us both. Lysander stared at her. You're saying I have to choose between my humanity and your safety. No, she squeezed his hand. I'm saying I have to choose. The ritual requires the sacrifice to make the final decision, whether to free you or keep you bound. That's not fair to you. Nothing about this is fair. Tears finally fell. I've led you this far, given you hope, and now I have to decide whether to take it away to keep us both alive. He pulled her close, held her while she cried, felt his own eyes burn with tears he hadn't been able to cry for 300 years. We'll find another way, he said. There is no other way. Then we'll make one. She pulled back, looked at him, really looked. When did you start caring? She asked softly. When you started crying. When I realized I'd rather face Cassian as a human than watch you suffer as a vampire. That's the curse weakening, making you more human, more emotional. Is it, or is it just you? They sat in silence, the impossible question hanging between them. Finally, Cordelia spoke. We have 8 days. 8 days to prepare, to plan, to figure out how to survive what's coming. And then I'll choose your freedom or our survival. She touched his face, and I honestly don't know which I'll pick. Lysander turned his face into her palm, kissed it. Whatever you choose, he said, I'll understand. Will you bow? No, probably not, but I'll try my eye. She laughed, a broken, watery sound. We're a mess. We're alive, that's something. For now, outside storm clouds gathered. In London, Cassian Whitmore prepared his hunters. At Thornfield, two people held each other in the afternoon light, knowing that in 8 days everything would change. Either they'd break the curse and face death human, or they'd keep it and face death together. Either way, the ending was coming, and neither of them knew if they'd survive it. But for now, in this moment, they had each other, and that would have to be enough. 8 days. That was all the time they had left. Cordelia knew she should be searching for another answer. A third option. A way to break the curse without making Lysander vulnerable. But something in her had shifted after the second trial. The grief over her mother. The knowledge of what Cassian truly was. The way Lysander had held her while she cried. She wasn't searching for escape anymore. She was preparing for war. Lysander's humanity was growing stronger every day. He could feel warmth now. Could taste food though he didn't need it. Could sleep though dreams frightened him after 3 centuries without them. And he could feel fear. Real churning, human fear. Not for himself, for her. On the 5th day, Augustine arrived from London. He looked haggard, road-worn, his face grave as a mourner's. They're coming, he said without preamble. Cassian has gathered 12 hunters, holy weapons, silver, fire. They leave London in 3 days. Cordelia looked up from the book she'd been reading, not searching for alternatives, memorizing. The third trial ritual. Every word, every gesture. That gives us time. For what? Augustine moved closer, saw the state of her, the determination in her eyes. Cordelia, what are you planning? She stood, her decision already made. I found something, she said. Her voice was steady, in a text from 1502, written by a witch who specialized in curse transference. Lysander, who had been standing by the window, turned sharply. Transference. Curses can be moved from one soul to another if the recipient is willing, if they understand the bond. No, Gush. Lysander crossed the room in 3 strides. Absolutely not. You're not taking this curse. Listen to me. No, I won't let you become what I am. I won't watch you suffer for centuries. It wouldn't be centuries. Cordelia grabbed his arms. Don't you see that's the brilliance of it? The curse weakens with each transfer. What took you 300 years to barely crack, I could break in minutes. Augustine's face went white. You want to become a vampire? Temporarily, just long enough to... There's no such thing as temporarily. Lysander pulled away. Once you're turned, you're damned, forever. Unless I break the curse immediately after. Cordelia's eyes were fierce. The third trial ritual. I've memorized it. Every word, every gesture. Once I take the curse, once you're human, I perform it on myself, and we both go free. And if it doesn't work, Lysander's voice broke. If you're wrong, then I'll be what you were, and you'll be what I am, and at least one of us will be free. The silence was crushing. Augustine sank into a chair. This is madness. This is the only way. Cordelia turned to him. Father, you've studied this your whole life. Tell him I'm right. Tell him it could work. Augustine looked at his daughter, at the Duke, at the terrible choice before them. Theoretically, he said slowly, theoretically, yes, if the transfer is willing, if the curse is already weakened, if she performs the ritual perfectly. He stopped. But the margin for error is non-existent. One mistake, and she's trapped. Forever. I won't make a mistake. You're gambling with your soul. I'm choosing my fate. Cordelia's voice was steel. Isn't that what you taught me? That knowledge is power, that understanding darkness means we can fight it. Lysander grabbed her shoulders, forced her to look at him. Why would you do this? You said it yourself. You don't love me. This is business. So why sacrifice everything? Cordelia met his eyes, silver still but warming. More gray now than mirror. Because Cassian killed my mother thinking she was a monster. Because he hunts what he doesn't understand. Because if I let him win, if I let him kill you for being cursed, then I'm saying my mother died for nothing. Her voice hardened. And because someone has to prove that redemption is real. that curses can break, that monsters can become men. I'm not worth this. Let me decide what you're worth. They stared at each other, the air between them charged with everything they wouldn't say, couldn't say. Finally, Lysander released her. Step back. If we do this, he said quietly, if I turn you, I want something in return. What? A promise that if the ritual fails, if you're trapped, you'll let me stay with you. Not as your servant, as your equal. Two cursed things facing eternity together. Cordelia's throat tightened. Lysander, promise me, because I can't do this otherwise. Can't watch you become what I was and then abandon you to it. Promise me. She saw what this cost him. This admission, this willingness to remain damned if she was. I promise, she whispered. He nodded once, then left the library. She heard his footsteps fade down the hallway. Heard a door close somewhere distant. Augustine stood, came to his daughter, put his arms around her. You're the bravest person I know, he said, and I'm terrified for you. I'm terrified too. She leaned into him, let herself be small for just a moment. But I'm more terrified of the alternative. When did you become so fearless? When fear stopped being enough to keep me alive. They came on the 8th day, just after sunset. 12 men on horseback carrying torches that turned the twilight orange. Cassian led them. He sat straight in the saddle confident, a general leading his army to righteous victory. Cordelia watched from the tower window. She'd spent the last 3 days preparing, sleeping, eating, making peace with her choice. Now she wore black. Simple dress, hair braided tight. Around her neck, the nightshade stars glittered cold and deadly. Lysander stood beside her. He looked more human every hour. Color in his cheeks, warmth in his skin. The curse was unraveling. Without the final trial, it would snap back, reclaim him. But for now, he was caught between. Neither fully vampire nor fully human. Vulnerable. They'll surround the house, he said. His voice was calm, battle calm. Try to burn us out, or force entry and hunt room by room. Can you still fight them? Some, not as I could before. He flexed his hands. Claws barely emerged, weak, pathetic. But I'll try. No, Cordelia touched his arm. We do this my way, remember. Your way gets you killed. Your way gets us both killed. She turned to him. Trust me. Please. He looked at her. This extraordinary woman who had walked into his life and shattered 300 years of careful, safe isolation. I do, he said. God help me, I do. Below, Cassian's voice rang out. Nightshade, come out, face justice for your crimes. Cordelia moved to the window, leaned out where they could see her. What crimes? She called down. Being what he was cursed to be, that's not a crime. That's a tragedy. Cassian's horse shifted. He's a vampire, a demon, an abomination. He's my husband, and you'll have to go through me to get to him. So be it. The hunters dismounted. They carried stakes, silver blades, holy water, crosses, all the tools of their trade. They moved toward the house like wolves circling prey. Cordelia pulled back from the window. Now, she said to Lysander, before they breach the doors, do it now. Cordelia, we don't have time for doubts. They're here. This is happening. Bite me. Transfer the curse or we both die in the next hour. Lysander's hands shook. I can't. You have to. There must be another way. There isn't. She grabbed his face, forced him to look at her. I've spent days searching. This is it. This is the only chance. So either you trust my research or you've been lying about believing in me. The words struck home. She saw it in his eyes. Damn you, he whispered. Probably. She tilted her head, exposed her throat. The choker had hidden her scar for so long. Now she tore it off, let him see. The thin white line, the old wound. Here, she said, make it clean, make it quick. Below, glass shattered. The hunters were breaking in. Lysander pulled her close. His breath was warm against her skin. Human breath. Human heat. I'm sorry, he said. Then his fangs descended. Still sharp. Still deadly. One last gift from the curse before it left him. He bit. Pain. Sharp and bright and total. Cordelia gasped. Her hands clutched his shoulders. Held on. He drank. Not much. Just enough. The curse knew. It recognized the ritual. Recognized the willing sacrifice. And it moved. Cordelia felt it. Like ice flooding her veins. Like darkness pouring into her soul. The curse left Lysander and found her. Wrapped around her heart. her lungs, her bones. She screamed. Lysander pulled away. His mouth was bloody, his eyes wide with horror. Cordelia. But she was changing. Her skin went pale, marble pale. Her eyes darkened, shifted, turned silver. The hunger hit, massive, overwhelming. She could smell blood everywhere. Lysander's, the hunter's, her own father's somewhere in the house. She wanted it, needed it. The thirst was agony. Fight it, Lysander said. He was crying, fully human now, fully mortal. Cordelia, fight it. Don't let it take you. She fell to her knees, tried to breathe, but vampires didn't need breath. Her body was forgetting how to be human. The ritual, she gasped. Help me. The words. I don't know them. You never told me. The book, library. Third shelf. Red binding. Footsteps thundered up the stairs. The hunters were coming. Lysander ran. Cordelia stayed on the floor, trying to hold on, trying to remember who she was, what she was fighting for. The door burst open. Cassian stood there. He saw Cordelia, saw the blood on her neck, the silver eyes, the transformation. No, he breathed. You let him turn you, you fool. Cordelia rose, slowly. The vampire's strength was intoxicating. She felt powerful, unstoppable. 300 years of accumulated magic flowed through her. Not a fool, she said. Her voice was different, deeper, colder. A volunteer. Cassian raised his stake. Then you die with him. Try. She moved, faster than thought, faster than he could react. She grabbed his wrist, twisted. The stake clattered to the floor. Cassian's eyes went wide. You're strong. I'm furious. She threw him. He hit the wall, slid down, gasped for breath. The other hunters filled the doorway. They saw what she'd become. Horror crossed their faces. She's turned, one shouted. Kill her. Kill them both. They charged. Cordelia met them. She didn't know how to fight, but the curse did. 300 years of Lysander's memories. His instincts, his survival skills. They flooded her, guided her hands. She fought like something unleashed. Blocked blows, dodged stakes, moved with grace that wasn't hers but was becoming hers. She was magnificent, terrifying. A vampire in her first moments, the most dangerous kind. Lysander returned with the book. He saw the carnage. Hunters on the ground. Cassian struggling to stand. Cordelia standing in the center of it all, breathing hard, eyes blazing silver. Cordelia, he shouted, the ritual now. She turned to him. For a moment he saw nothing human in those eyes. Just hunger, just darkness. Then she blinked, fought for control. Read it, she said. I'll hold them. Lysander opened the book, found the page. His hands shook so badly he could barely see the words. But he read. The language was ancient, guttural. Each word felt heavy, important, like speaking the world into new shapes. Cassian rose, pulled a silver dagger. Stop him, he screamed at his men. Stop the ritual. 2 hunters lunged for Lysander. Cordelia intercepted them, threw them back. She was weakening, fighting the curse, fighting the hunger, fighting herself. Keep reading, she gasped. Lysander read faster. The words began to glow on the page. Magic recognized magic. The ritual was working. Light began to emanate from Cordelia. Not from around her, from within her. Like something in odd was burning. She fell to her knees, screamed. The curse was fighting back. Didn't want to break. Didn't want to die. Almost there, Lysander said. His voice cracked. Tears streamed down his face. Stay with me. Just a little more. Cassian saw his chance. He grabbed the fallen stake, ran at Lysander, raised it high. No! Augustine appeared in the doorway. He threw himself at Cassian. They went down together, grappling, fighting. Lysander kept reading. The final words, the final gestures. He set the book down, held out his hand to Cordelia. Take it, he said. Take my hand. Come back. Cordelia reached for him. Her hand was shaking, dissolving into light. The curse was breaking, leaving her, dying. Their fingers touched. The light exploded. Everything went white. When Cordelia opened her eyes, the world was quiet. She was lying on the floor. Her body felt heavy, warm, familiar, human. She took a breath, real breath. Her lungs expanded. Her heart beat. Normal, mortal, alive. Lysander was beside her. He looked exactly the same. Still human, still free. Around them, the hunters were sprawled, unconscious. The magical blast had knocked them out, all except Cassian. He stood against the wall, his dagger raised, but his hands shook. He was staring at Cordelia like she was a ghost. "It's not possible," he whispered. "You were turned. I saw it. You should be damned." "I was damned." Cordelia sat up slowly. Everything ached. Beautiful human ache. For about 10 minutes, then I broke it. That's, that's not what, not fair, not how curses work." She stood, swayed. Lysander caught her, held her steady. "You know what's not fair, Cassian, killing innocent women because you're too arrogant to check if they're actually monsters first. Your mother was human, was innocent, was murdered by you." Cordelia's voice was steel. "And you've been hunting me ever since because I knew, because I could destroy you. Well, guess what? I'm done running." Augustine stirred from the floor. He was bruised but alive. He looked at his daughter, saw her standing, human, alive. "It worked," he breathed. "My God, it actually worked." Cordelia smiled. "You taught me well, Father." Cassian's face twisted. "This isn't over. I'll tell everyone. The church. The Hunters Guild. You married a vampire. You became one. That's proof enough." "Proof of what?" Lysander stepped forward. "I'm human now. Fully. Check my pulse, my breath, my reflection." He pointed to a mirror on the wall. His image showed clear, solid, real. "The curse is broken. I'm just a man. You were a monster." "Was, past tense, Béchot." Lysander's voice was cold. "But you're a murderer, present tense. You killed Cordelia's mother, an innocent woman, and you've hunted my wife across England. So here's what's going to happen." He moved closer to Cassian, man to man, equal to equal. "You're going to leave," Lysander said. "You're going to take your hunters and go back to London. And you're going to stay away from my wife forever, because if you don't, I'll make sure every person in London knows what you really are. Not a hero, not a protector. A killer who doesn't check his facts. They won't believe you. Won't they?" Augustine stood, pulled papers from his coat. "I have testimony. From 4 other women you hunted. All human, all innocent, all dead. I've been collecting evidence for 2 years, waiting for the right moment. This seems like it." Cassian's face went white. "You're bluffing. Try me." Augustine's voice was granite. "My daughter almost died tonight. Because of you. I have nothing left to lose, and everything to gain by seeing you hang." The silence stretched. Cassian looked around, at the unconscious hunters, at the 3 people standing against him, at his choices dwindling to none. Finally, he lowered the dagger. "This isn't finished," he said. "Yes," Cordelia said quietly. "It is. You just don't know it yet." Cassian backed toward the door, kept his eyes on them until the last moment. Then he ran. They heard him on the stairs, heard the front door slam, heard hoofbeats fading into distance. He was gone. The remaining hunters began to stir. Lysander helped them up one by one, explained what had happened. The curse broken. The vampire dead. Just a man left behind. Some believed him, some didn't, but they all left, one by one, until Thornfield Hall was quiet again. Just the 3 of them, Cordelia, Lysander, Augustine. They stood in the wreckage of the tower room, books scattered, blood on the floor, the smell of magic fading. "Well," Augustine said finally, "that was dramatic." Cordelia laughed, actually laughed. The sound was bright and broken and beautiful. Lysander pulled her close. "You did it," he said. "You actually did it." "We did it." She touched his face. Warm skin, human skin. "How does it feel? Being mortal. Terrifying, wonderful, strange." He smiled. "Like being born again. You'll age now, get old, die." "I know. We'll grow old together. I'm counting on it." They looked at each other, really looked. 2 people who had married as strangers, who had built something impossible in the space between business and something more. Augustine cleared his throat. "I hate to interrupt, but you 2 should probably make this marriage real. Proper vows, not just a business arrangement." Cordelia and Lysander exchanged glances, then they laughed together. "Are you proposing we marry again?" Lysander asked. "Why not 3rd time's the charm?" "I'd like that," Cordelia said softly. "So would I." 2 months later, spring had painted the world green. They stood in the same village church, but this time the church was full. Villagers who had learned to trust their duke, scholars who'd heard about the curse breaking, Friends who'd watched two strangers become something more. Augustine walked Cordelia down the aisle. She wore white, but no veil this time. Just her face, her truth. Lysander waited at the altar. He looked nervous, humanly nervous. The vicar spoke briefly, then Lysander took Cordelia's hand. "I'm not promising forever," he said. "We're human now. We get maybe 50 years if we're lucky. But I'm promising today, and tomorrow, and every day after until time runs out. I'm promising to choose you." Cordelia squeezed his hand. "You gave me back my courage. I'll spend the rest of my life reminding you you're worth saving." They kissed, not magical, just real. The church erupted in applause. That evening they stood in what had been the library. They'd converted it into something new. The Nightshade Academy for Occult Research. A place where people could study curses, learn to break them, help others trapped in darkness. Augustine would run it. Applications had already arrived from across England. Cordelia and Lysander stood by the window, watching the sun set over the grounds. "Any regrets?" Lysander asked. Cordelia thought about it, about everything they'd been through, everything they'd lost and gained. "No," she said finally, "this is exactly where I want to be. Even married to a former vampire?" "Especially that," he laughed, pulled her closer. They watched the stars come out, the same stars that had witnessed 300 years of loneliness. But tonight they witnessed something new. Two people choosing each other. Not because they had to, but because love wasn't about perfection. It was about seeing someone's darkness and choosing to stand beside them anyway. Cordelia made a wish on the first star. Not for magic, just for time. Enough time to grow old with this man. The star didn't answer. Stars never did. But Lysander's hand tightened on hers, and that was the answer enough. They had chosen each other. The curse was broken. The monsters were defeated. And for the first time in 300 years, Thornfield Hall felt like a home. The end was really a beginning, and they would face it together. Human, mortal, alive, and finally, after everything, free.